What's going on, everybody? Plasma Therapist here, and today I'm taking the Wing Ver. I'm going to put my own little spin on it. So without further ado, let's get it. What's going on, everybody? Plasma Therapist here, and today I just wanted to take a quick video showing you how I customized the Wing Ver. After a quick disassembly, we'll go ahead and talk about the paints that I use. So without further ado, let's get started. So for this entire build, I used the G Paint, Studio Gundam G Paint line, and I started with the version 2 Dark Iron for the inner frame because that one doesn't require any primer. And of all the G Paints, the version 2 G Paint Dark Iron is my absolute favorite. If I could buy a 6-pack of this stuff, I would, because it's so great for just throwing paint down on those inner frames and calling it done, and it still looks amazing. So the next up is the version 2 White G Paint. I use this paint to kind of base a lot of the other paints that are going to go over it. And now, while the version 2 doesn't require primer, it's going to do great for the version 1 paints that still do, especially when I want to change a lot of the darker colors like the blues up and over into the reds, which I'll show you guys later. But for now, I'm going to lay down the white version 2 base so that I can make sure that I get all the colors nice and even. Now once your paint's all primed up and it's cured properly, you can go ahead and start spraying the version 1 G paints. And it's important to remember that you need to make sure that the paint's cured properly, or else the lacquer from the paints are going to reactivate the layer below, and that's going to be a big problem. Now, the version 1 paints are definitely thinner than the version 2 paints because it doesn't have that scratch resistant component to it, as well as the primerless component to it. So when I'm spraying the version 2 at around 30, maybe 25 to 30 psi, the version 1s I'm definitely cranking it out at about 20, maybe about 22 psi. Just keep that in mind when you're spraying your paints, and just adjust it to based on what you like. So now that the reds are all done, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to the version 2 G paints with a mix of white and black to make this light gray. In this jar, it's a mix of 10 parts white to 1 part black. Normally when I just paint directly into the pot, I'll just do a drop count, but for larger batches like this, to make sure I have enough to cover all the pieces that I need to cover, I definitely recommend going by weight so you can kind of measure it out appropriately and not just kind of rely on maybe possibly like messing up on your drops. Now when it comes to selecting my colors, a lot of the times I just kind of imagine something in my head as far as what I want to do. But one of the things you can do is check out shoes, or maybe even some skins from your favorite video games, and you can kind of use that to get an idea of what colors would look good, and definitely pay attention to some of the balance. Next up is the gunmetal, and this is actually the first time I'm using it for the Studio Gun, for any build actually. Generally I prefer the dark iron because it looks a little bit grittier, makes the kits look a little bit tougher, but I wanted to try the gunmetal directly on plastic. And then as you'll see in a little bit, I'm going to spray the gunmetal on a piece of the shield that I kind of prepared earlier. And what I did is I went ahead and I spray painted that shield black, and so I can kind of see how the gunmetal looks with the black basing. And honestly, when you compare the pieces side by side, the gunmetal has definitely the same color when sprayed directly onto the plastic like I did back here on the rifle. So in terms of getting those bases down for the version 2 G paints, especially with the metallic colors, I don't think it's as necessary. So now that the white armor pieces had enough time to cure, I go ahead and mask off the pieces that I want to add a little bit of color separation to. And what I'll do is I'll use the yellow Tamiya tape closer to the pieces that I'm going to cut, and then I just use blue Scotch tape to kind of mask off larger bulks of the rest of the area. So as you can see here, I'm going back to the gray color and just spraying the dark color over the light. Generally I would do it this way because when it comes to doing parts like this, it's easier to mask off the light color, paint on the dark color, and then after that go back to your light color and spray over it. But for this kit, all I did was just light color, mask, and then dark color, and then go ahead and just peel it off. Now for me, removing the mask is probably one of the most satisfying parts of a build. It's really fun when you get those really clean lines from your paint and your tape. So that's why I always recommend using some good quality tape, such as this yellow Tamiya masking tape here, for doing really close up on your cuts. And then again, using this blue Scotch tape to save a little bit of money and get, bigger coverage for a cheaper price, and not using your good tape for just kind of overall general coverage. Now, for me, how long do I wait before I peel my masks? Usually what I'll do is once I'm done painting all of the masked off colors, I finish the last piece, then I go back to the first piece and I'll start peeling off the mask there. So I started with the ankle armor, then I moved on to the shin, eventually onto the knee, and then the last thing again, as you saw, was the shield. Now, once that's done, I can peel it all off and I just let it cure like that. Some people say let it cure a little bit longer, but to avoid allowing the paint kind of to adhere to the tape too much, that's usually why I peel it right after I'm done painting. And so the rifle here was a little bit different because it was two separate colors, like way far apart when it came to painting it. So I didn't mind letting it sit for a little bit longer before peeling off the mask on the rifle here. Once that was done, I wanted to add a little bit of extra detail to the kit. So I went ahead and hand painted the little plastic piece behind the clear green part that I'm gonna do. Now, sometimes you could just use a sticker, but I wanted to give it a little bit of depth. So I went ahead and painted the base armor part silver, and then over that, what I'm gonna do is I painted the clear plastic piece using some Gaia Notes fluorescent yellow green. So once you're done painting, the last step is your water slide decals. Now, I went ahead and did a tutorial. I'm gonna go ahead and link that up in the corner, but just a quick note on these. When I'm doing my decals, what I like to do is I like to match the angles of the decals into angles and parts of the kits. This helps to make it look like that's where the decal belongs instead of kind of looking out of place because the angles don't match. Once that's done, I like to make sure I match one side of the kit to the other side of the kit, as well as front and back pieces. Once that's done, then I go ahead and add some of the unique decals, like the ones like here on the top of the chest. And once that's done, I go ahead and just hit it with a clear coat and call it done. So there you have it, guys. That's my Wing Gundam Ver build. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think of like the faceless video. Did you guys like it? Do you guys hate it? Drop it down in the comments below. But anyway, that's it from me, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, take care of yourselves, take care of the people around you, and I'll see you in the next one.